Good evening, guys, fellow Star Wars fans and cadets. This is Lance from Cinematic Galaxy here, and I am bringing you my review of one of the latest Star Wars canon novels leading up to the Journey of the Last Jedi, Phasma. Now, the Phasma, just to preface briefly, ever since Star Wars Celebration of 2015, a little over 2 years ago, the Chewie We're Home teaser, for me personally, the thing that, and a lot of people, the thing that got my attention, that got me the most hyped for The Force Awakens was that Chrome Trooper walking down the hallway with that awesome cape as well. And when I found out that was Gwendolyn Christie's character, even as someone who had never seen Game of Thrones, who still hasn't seen it, but I will, I got hyped. I was like, that is awesome. Seeing a woman in that type of role, we just don't see that much in films, let alone Star Wars. And Gwendolyn Christie, she's 6'3". I mean, she already has that imposing presence on screen. This character is worth getting hyped for. And Phasma was marketed everywhere. All kinds of merchandise, and I believe this might have been the first Force Awakens figure I picked up back in 2015. I was so hyped for Phasma. I not the only figure I bought of her, by the way. I was jazzed, and like a lot of people were, and like a lot of those people, when I saw The Force Awakens, even as a fan of the film, I was disappointed in the way she was utilized. I didn't really dislike her. I didn't have any huge problems with her, except for one that I'll get into later. But she just felt underused, and for a character that was marketed so heavily and talked about as being this incredibly strong character. But thankfully, all hope was not lost, because Phasma is set to appear in The Last Jedi in Episode 8. So anyway, this book, Phasma, is written by Delilah S. Dawson, who wrote the short story The Perfect Weapon, which I have sitting around, but I have not yet read. I need to get to reading that. And I literally just finished reading this book like 20 minutes ago. And I have to work early in the morning and everything, but I just had to talk about this book because I am hyped out of my mind. This book is awesome. This book is awesome. This is a great book. And I want to emphasize that. This is a great book. First things first, I don't even really want to cover the synopsis. I did read the synopsis prior to reading the book, and you know what? Actually, I will read the synopsis. I don't think it'll ruin anything for you because it just got me more intrigued to read it. So I'm going to. Actually, that's kind of long. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically what happens, you have this guy on the back of the book, Cardinal. He's a First Order officer, First Order troop, kind of elite trooper like Phasma, and he wants to investigate her, so he has this resistance spy named V. Maradi, I believe is how you say it. He's holding her hostage, interrogating her about Phasma to find out about his rival, essentially, and in the First Order. That's really all I'm going to tell you about the synopsis. And obviously, this book goes into Phasma's past. It's essentially an origin story for Captain Phasma. It's essentially Batman Begins for Phasma, and it works. It works so well. In my opinion, it feels very film noirish. Like it definitely has a mystery element to it. The mystery of Phasma is used very well, and that's one of the things I think even The Force Awakens does well with Phasma. Now that I'm looking back on it, is the mystery surrounding her. Considering there were going to be more films, look at how Darth Vader is used in A New Hope. Even though he wasn't in the film much, I mean, obviously he had more to do in that film than Phasma did in The Force Awakens, but still a mystery. You still know virtually nothing about him except, a few important things. But I mean, as far as presence and as far as, there's just a lot you don't know about the Man Under the Mask just based off that film, and even at the start of Empire Strikes Back. Well, with Phasma, it's kind of the same deal, and I'm telling you, everything. Just to face it, she for most of the book she does not have her chrome armor, and I thought that was a brilliant move, um, creatively, because it gets you down to it. Yet when you come away from the book, while you have learned a lot about her, there's still mystery around her. You don't feel like the character was just ruined for you. It's like the character's almost more mysterious and more unpredictable now. But you know so much more about her. And in my opinion, you get, with this book, I got the Phasma that I wanted in The Force Awakens. But at the same time, the Phasma in The Force Awakens now, I can see that being this Phasma. Honestly. And but before I get into one of the main things, I just want to say one of the things I loved about this book, aside from Delilah Dawson's writing, was the way the book kind of used time. It kind of jumped back and forth between the past and the present, and it did that very, very well. Very, very well. It was never jarring, in my opinion. But the characters. You've got Via Marati, the Resistance spy. I'm a fan of the Resistance, so I mean I liked her character. My favorite character of the book, probably my favorite part of the book, was this character Cardinal, the Red Trooper I just showed you. In my opinion, he's probably the first truly human look we've gotten at a Resistance at a First Order character before. Thus far, he's the first one I've seen that really feels like a human being who could actually have a heart without going into any spoilers. Just saying. And that was great to see. And his logic and his reasons for doing what he's doing, while it may be flawed, it makes sense when you read the book. But going back to the main course here, Phasma. So, with The Force Awakens, one of my glaring issues with that movie up to now has been Phasma lowering the shields when Finn aimed the blaster at her in The Force Awakens, and and all that. And I always felt that, well, there's a certain route they could go that could redeem that for me, but they probably won't do it. They'll probably just kind of forget about that going into The Last Jedi and just, have her back like nothing ever happened. Well, I am very happy to say this is one of those instances where I was wrong. They did address my problem with The Force Awakens. In fact, I don't want to get into it too much, but all I can say is whatever Rian Johnson has planned for Phasma in The Last Jedi, yes, it does address my problem with The Force Awakens, with that scene, and that scene is no longer a problem for me in The Force Awakens. I'll leave it there. Oh boy. Oh boy, I could honestly go on and on. I'm keeping this spoiler free, by the way, because I want you to experience this book for yourself. All I'm saying, obviously, a lot of my hype for this book, and I'm keeping it reasonable, and this is just me being objective to you as a Star Wars fan. A lot of my hype for the Phasma novel is coming from, realistically speaking, it says Journey to the Last Jedi. This is the Phasma we're going to get in The Last Jedi. And let me just emphasize that Phasma in this book, she does stuff. She doesn't stand around the whole time. She does some standing around, but not the entire time. She's a part of the action. My word. My word. We have to get this Phasma in The Last Jedi. And I'm honestly at the point, I will be just as disappointed if we don't get this Phasma in The Last Jedi. I would be just as disappointed as I would be if Luke Skywalker did not ever pull out the green lightsaber. So I'm just going to say that. Yeah. So without further ado, I loved Phasma. I love this book. It was a great book in its own right. it's setting up a character that I think is going to win people over. I think she's going to win over all the people who were underwhelmed with The Force Awakens, except the people who don't want to be won over. Aside from that, I do think she's going to win people over. And this book gets a 10 out of 10. There's really nothing about it that I can find fault with. And I maybe there is something, but I can't think of it right now. It gets a 10 out of 10. It's one of the best Star Wars novels I've read. One of the best canon novels for sure. Definitely check it out. And it should get you hyped for The Last Jedi. It should get you hyped for Phasma. And anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is Lance from Cinematic Galaxy, signing off.